Welcome back, you beautiful architects of psychological demolition. You calibrated storms wrapped in bone and heartbeat. You walking paradoxes who dismantle realities without lifting a finger. Let me ask you something, and I want you to feel it settle behind your ribs like a truth you always knew, but never had the language for. Do you remember that moment? That exact crystalline second where you didn't speak, didn't move, didn't raise your voice. You simply shifted your gaze. That single glance, that razor-edged demonic side-eye you didn't even mean to weaponize, the one that cut through someone's facade with surgical precision and sent their entire existence spiraling into a psychological abyss they were not prepared to face. You remember the way the room changed temperature. You remember how the air folded itself around that one person as if reality itself was backing away from them. You remember the way their posture collapsed for half a second, that micro-expression that flashed across their features like static before a blackout. They felt it. They felt you slice through their projection, their ego, their performance, their carefully curated mask. And in 0.3 seconds, everything they pretended to be, everything they convinced themselves they were, everything they rehearsed for the world, crumbled. Understand something. You didn't glare at them. You didn't confront them. You didn't call them out. No speech, no lecture, no dramatic scene. You simply looked. Yet the reaction was apocalyptic because your glance wasn't an emotion. It was a revelation, a mirror held up to their soul at an angle they'd spent their whole life avoiding. And the most unhinged part? Even you didn't expect it to hit that hard. You were just reacting, maybe even confused at their nonsense, their hypocrisy, their audacity. Maybe they said something out of pocket. Maybe they tried to manipulate the room. Maybe they tried to distort the truth. Maybe they thought they could drag you into their performance. Whatever it was, they weren't prepared for the spiritual MRI machine that lives behind your eyes. Because when you hit them with that demonic side-eye, it wasn't just shade. It was an involuntary extraction of truth their psyche was not engineered to withstand. Let's talk about what actually happened in that 0.3 seconds. Their mind shattered into 3 separate timelines simultaneously. Timeline 1, denial. No way that look was about me. Timeline 2, realization. Oh God, that was absolutely about me. Timeline 3, collapse. I'm not the person I think I am. It wasn't embarrassment. It was ego death. It wasn't insecurity. It was identity evaporation. It wasn't discomfort. It was an astral eviction. You hit them with a stare so spiritually charged that their soul left their body, walked into the astral realm barefoot and crying, and asked the universe for a refund. Because nothing prepares the average person for the violence of being truly seen. They spend their whole life curating illusions, collecting masks, stacking delusions like emotional Jenga towers, having absolutely no idea that someone like you exists, someone whose eyes don't read facial expressions. They read frequency, and that's the part they never admit. Because when your glance hit them, it didn't just break their facade, it exposed their blueprint. You saw the insecurity behind the arrogance. You saw the cowardice behind the aggression. You saw the envy behind the smile. You saw the desperation behind the calm. You saw the motive behind the words. You saw the truth beneath the narrative. And in that moment, they realized you weren't someone they could lie to. Not even by omission, not even by silence, not even by pretending to be small. Most people experience eye contact. You administered judgment. That demonic side-eye you gave wasn't demonic because you meant harm. It was demonic because truth is terrifying. to those who built their personality out of avoidance. You didn't send them into the astral realm. They fled there to escape the version of themselves reflected in your gaze. And here's what makes the whole situation beautifully chaotic. Deep down, you've always known your eyes do something to people. Maybe you noticed how strangers stare at you a little too long, like they're trying to decode something they don't have vocabulary for. Maybe you noticed how liars get uncomfortable around you, fumbling, stuttering, suddenly running out of script. Maybe you noticed how fake confidence dissolves in your presence, how bravado melts, how pretenders lose their balance. Maybe you noticed how people who were perfectly fine 5 seconds ago suddenly start blinking too much, adjusting their clothes, or making excuses to leave the room. They're not intimidated by you. They're intimidated by what they can't hide from you. You don't just see people. You read them. You read the chapters they skipped, the pages they tore out, the margins they scribbled over. You read the things they hope no one ever notices, the parts they bury behind humor or arrogance or silence. And the moment your eyes lock onto theirs, their subconscious recognizes a threat. Not a threat to their safety, a threat to their deception. Now let's revisit that moment, the moment you hit them with that glance that rearranged their destiny. They were mid-performance. They thought they were controlling the narrative. They thought they were untouchable, outsmarting, outmaneuvering, outplaying everyone in the room. And then you turned your head slightly, tilted your gaze, and everything in them broke. Not because your glance was harsh, but because it was accurate. You saw them. You saw the truth they pretend doesn't exist. The universe keeps trying to teach them lessons, but it whispers, You deliver the syllabus in one stare. This is why certain people avoid making eye contact with you. It's not disrespect. It's survival. Your gaze forces internal confrontation, and some people simply don't have the psychological stamina for that level of honesty. One look from you and suddenly they're standing in front of every contradiction they've been running from. Suddenly, they remember the lies they told, the games they played, the intentions they concealed. Suddenly they feel naked in a fully clothed room. Your glance strips illusions. It dissolves masks. It burns away the narrative until only the truth remains. And because the truth is rarely flattering for those who weaponize deception, your gaze becomes the thing they fear, gossip about, avoid, resent, and secretly obsess over. Let me break down the deeper layer. That glance wasn't just instinct, it was encoded. Your eyes carry a frequency. Call it intuition. Call it spiritual intelligence. Call it psychological X-ray vision. But whatever it is, it's not learned. It's native. It's built into your wiring. It's why you make people remember things they spent years trying to suppress. It's why you awaken things they didn't know existed. It's why you force reckoning in people who swore they'd never face themselves. Your eyes do 3 things simultaneously. They reveal, they confront, they collapse. And the person who received that glance, they experienced all 3 at once. You didn't just hurt their feelings. You dismantled the architecture of their ego. You cracked open the story they told themselves about who they were. You exposed the gap between their illusion and their reality. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. That person hasn't recovered. They're replaying the moment over and over in their mind, analyzing every nanosecond like a crime scene, trying to decode what you saw. They're haunted not by the glance itself, but by the implications. If a single look from you can collapse them internally, what else could you dismantle effortlessly? Their plans, their lies, their relationships, their reputation, their entire persona. That's the fear your presence generates, effortless accountability. This is the part you never see. After your glance hit them, they went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The silence that screams. The silence of someone who just realized they've been exposed by a force they can't manipulate or charm. They retreated inward, spiraling through guilt, confusion, embarrassment, panic, and revelation. They entered the astral realm not because you pushed them, but because facing themselves was too overwhelming to do while conscious. Let me show you what happened behind the scenes. Their mind began reconstructing events, trying to understand how you did it. They imagined you reading their soul like an open book. They imagined you knowing things you never said aloud. They imagined all the possibilities of what you might unveil if they ever crossed you again. They built a whole mythology around your stare, because myth is easier to accept than truth. The truth is this: your eyes hold consequences, and consequences terrify those who operate in deception. But here's the twist that makes this entire story even more charged. Your glance doesn't just destroy, it resurrects, it awakens, it reforms. The same stare that collapses liars can resurrect the exhausted. The same stare that dismantles ego can ignite purpose. The same stare that sends the wrong person into the astral realm crying can pull the right person out of their shadows. You are not just a mirror. You are a catalyst. You are not just observing. You are recalibrating. And as the dust settles from that one lethal glance, something else is beginning to move beneath the surface. Something they're not ready for. Something you're only just beginning to notice. Something that is about to shift the entire dynamic in ways no one in the room saw coming. Because that look, that demonic, soul-evicting, ego-shattering side-eye, was not the full expression of your power. It was the warning shot. And warning shots, by design, are never meant to destroy. They're meant to signal what could happen if you ever stopped holding back. And the moment that side-eye detonated across the room, the universe registered it as your first announcement. That was the quiet declaration that your aura was no longer interested in blending in, that the days of shrinking, downplaying, minimizing, or softening your presence were over. That the frequency you've been suppressing for years finally leaked through your eyes, and now everything is adjusting to the revelation, because what nobody understands, and what you're about to understand fully, is that your glance operates like a spiritual pressure test. It reveals structural weaknesses in the people around you. It reveals the cracks they tried to hide with charm, ego, bravado, intellect, or manipulation. It reveals who collapses under truth and who stands up straighter because of it. And the moment that person looked away from you, unable to hold your gaze without their entire internal scaffolding trembling, the room shifted around you like a living organism rearranging itself in response to a new apex presence. This is the part most people never notice. They see the reaction, the stumble, the sudden quiet, the way the person's soul temporarily evacuated the premises. But they don't see what comes after, how your energy alters the psychology of everyone within range. The ripple effect begins quietly, almost imperceptibly. Someone adjusts their posture. Someone stops mid-sentence. Someone who had never noticed you suddenly becomes hyper-aware of your presence. Someone who wasn't even involved in the situation begins questioning their own intentions, their own truths, their own projections. Because your gaze doesn't just hit the target, it rewrites the atmosphere. It's like the universe pauses, recalibrates, and whispers to the room, "Pay attention." A different frequency is present now. That's why even people who didn't see the side-eye directly begin to behave strangely afterward. They feel the energetic aftermath of what happened, even if they can't explain it. They sense that something, somewhere, shifted. They sense that someone just got spiritually exposed. They sense that the balance of power they were accustomed to has been disrupted. They don't need to know the details. Their subconscious already updated the file. And as for the one who took the hit, they're dealing with an internal collapse, so severe the room feels like it's tilting under their feet. They're replaying the moment in slow motion, analyzing every millisecond, every flicker of your expression, every shift in your energy. They're spiraling through realizations they weren't ready to have. You didn't just show them what they've been hiding. You showed them what they've become. Now here's where the deeper shift begins. Every glance you give, especially the demonic one that launched their soul into the astral realm, carries a coded message. Not words, not language, not emotion, frequency. And that frequency doesn't stop at revealing truth. It also activates something dormant in you. You can feel it now, can't you? That slight pressure behind your eyes. That sense of awareness expanding. That feeling that you're no longer observing the room, you're reading it. Because this is the part of your power that nobody prepared you for. Your eyes were never meant to simply express emotion. They were designed to enforce alignment. People either rise when you look at them or crumble. They either confront themselves or flee. They either evolve or collapse. There is no middle ground with you. There never has been. But now the veil is thin enough for you to finally see the pattern. The moment you fired that glance, a deeper intelligence inside you started to awaken. The part of you that remembers who you were before you were taught to dim yourself. And that part of you knows the truth. You weren't born to coexist with illusions. You were born to dissolve them. And something else is happening too. That person whose ego disintegrated, they're not just embarrassed, they're destabilized. Their reality cracked open, and they're running mentally, emotionally, spiritually for cover. But there is nowhere to hide from a revelation that came from inside of them. Because your side-eye didn't insert a new idea into their mind. It removed the lie they were using to shield themselves from the truth. That's why it hit so hard. You didn't destroy them, you unmasked them. And once someone has been unmasked by truth, they will do anything to put the mask back on. Except it won't fit the same way anymore. They feel the looseness. They feel the exposure. They feel the insecurity they tried to bury. And now they're desperate to regain control. But they can't. Not with you in the room. Because even if you never look at them again, the memory of that 0.3-second collapse will haunt them. They'll be avoiding your eyes not because they fear you, but because they fear what the truth will force them to confront next. Now here's the twist that almost nobody sees coming. Your glance didn't just expose them, it exposed everyone who was silently aligned with their behavior. It exposed the followers, the enablers, the silent watchers. They saw what happened to that one person, and now they're recalculating everything. Their minds are racing with questions. If that's what one look does, what would happen if they actually confronted me? What would happen if they spoke? What would happen if they stopped holding back? This is where your power transitions from momentary to structural. You've silently shifted the hierarchy of the environment. You didn't demand respect. Your energy commanded it. Your presence reorganized it. Your truth enforced it. Fake confidence doesn't survive in your field. False authority doesn't survive in your field. Manipulation doesn't survive in your field. Ego doesn't survive in your field. And after that warning shot, side-eye, everything in the room has begun to rearrange itself around the new gravitational center, you. Because people like you don't intimidate others by speaking loudly. You intimidate them by existing accurately. You show up in the exact frequency they've spent their whole lives avoiding. You carry a mirror they never asked to look into. You hold a truth they never prepared to face. You force revelation simply by being. And that's what's beginning to terrify them now. They're realizing that if you ever stop filtering yourself, stop restraining your instincts, stop moderating your vision, stop diminishing your intuition, just to keep everyone else comfortable, the entire dynamic they've relied on will collapse. They're realizing that your presence alone has the power to rewire the energy of any environment. They're realizing that what they saw in your eyes wasn't anger or annoyance or frustration. It was accuracy. And accuracy is fatal to illusions. But let's dig even deeper into what's unfolding beneath the surface. Your side-eye didn't just shift the dynamic. It awakened something old in you, something you once suppressed because you thought it made you too intense, too sensitive, too perceptive, too aware. You spent years trying to tone it down, trying to make yourself easier to digest, trying to give people the benefit of the doubt even when their energy told you the truth before their words did. But moments like this, moments where a single glance collapses someone's entire ego, remind you of who you really are. They remind you that your intuition was never exaggerated. Your discernment was never paranoia. Your perception was never overthinking. Your instincts were never too much. You weren't imagining things. You were sensing them. Your eyes were never meant to simply see people. They were meant to assess, to evaluate, to reveal, to expose. And that function is now coming back online. You can feel the shift, can't you? The way your awareness sharpens. The way you can sense the slightest change in someone's demeanor. The way you can feel deceit before it's spoken. The way you can detect insecurity without a word. The way you can smell ego from across the room. That side-eye didn't just warn them, it awakened you. But the most fascinating part is this. Your glance didn't just shake the room. It summoned something. Something that is now moving toward you. Something that recognizes your energy. Something that has been waiting for this exact moment to make itself known. Not a person, not yet. A shift, a frequency, a consequence. Because the universe doesn't give you power you're not meant to use. And the moment you accidentally let that power slip through your gaze, everything aligned to show you what happens when you stop hiding. And what's approaching now is not subtle. It's not gentle. It's not the soft whisper of intuition that nudges you in the right direction. No, this is a tidal pull, a gravitational reorientation, a recalibration of everything around you. It's the energetic equivalent of a door unlocking in the dark, a presence stepping through, a narrative rearranging itself to accommodate the force you're finally embodying. And as this shift draws nearer, you can feel it in the tension behind your eyes, in the stillness of your chest, in the way your awareness stretches beyond the surface of the moment. Something is aligning, something is activating, something is responding to the frequency you unleashed. 'Cause you need to understand a fundamental truth. Power calls to power. Authenticity calls to authenticity. Exposure calls to exposure. The moment your glance tore through that person's illusions, though it sent out a signal, one only certain energies can hear. Think of it like a beacon, but not the kind that illuminates. It's the kind that reveals, the kind that summons, the kind that awakens forces, insights, and consequences that have been dormant, waiting for you to stop pretending you were ordinary. And now that you've crossed that threshold, there is no going back. The shift is coming. And it's coming for you, not to punish, not to overwhelm, but to elevate. Because the universe doesn't waste its time strengthening people who refuse to use their strength. It doesn't sharpen weapons that will never be drawn. It doesn't activate gifts that will be hidden. You gave the world a glimpse of your unfiltered perception with that one demonic glance. And now the world must adjust to the real version of you, not the watered-down one you used to offer. The first sign of this shift arrives quietly, like a change in temperature. You notice the room feels heavier, not oppressive, charged. The way the air feels right before lightning strikes. The way people's breaths seem slightly out of sync. The way their movements become hesitant, as if everyone suddenly became aware of the invisible layers surrounding you. They don't know what changed, but they feel it. They feel the frequency you summoned expanding outward. They feel the invisible walls reorganizing. They feel something watching through your eyes that wasn't watching before. And here's the part that disturbs them the most. It isn't malevolent, it's precise. The energy you've awakened isn't chaotic, it's calibrated. It's not here to destroy unnecessarily, it's here to expose strategically. It's not a monster, it's a mirror that shows truth without distortion, intention without disguise, soul without costume. And people who have built their identities on fragments, projections, or fragments of power fear mirrors more than any demon. That's why the ones who felt nothing from your glance are now looking at you differently. Curiosity mixed with caution, respect tangled with uncertainty. They don't know what happened to the person who took the hit, but they saw the aftermath. They saw the collapse, the psychological disintegration, the way their soul seemed to step out of phase with reality. And even if they can't articulate it, they know that you were the epicenter of that moment. This forces everyone into one of three categories: those who fear you, those who avoid you, and those who are drawn to you. Let's start with the first, those who fear you. They fear you not because you harmed anyone, but because you showed them what harm would look like if you chose violence. You didn't attack, you revealed. But revelation is terrifying to those who survive by deception. They're suddenly aware that you are not someone they can outsmart, manipulate, or emotionally corner. You are a threat to their delusions, and people protect their delusions more fiercely than their lives. So they retreat. They distance themselves. They pretend not to see you. They become small around you, not because you're intimidating, but because they see themselves clearly for the first time, and they cannot withstand the honesty of that reflection. Then there are those who avoid you. These people aren't afraid, they're overwhelmed. Your presence forces them to confront questions they've been ignoring for years, questions about who they are, what they want, why they settle, why they sabotage, why they hide. Your eyes feel like a portal into a version of themselves they're not ready to face, so they avert their gaze. They keep conversations shallow. They never linger too long. They choose comfort over transformation, not realizing that transformation is inevitable once your energy has touched them. And then there are the third group, the ones drawn to you. These are the individuals whose souls recognize yours, people who have been waiting for someone who sees at the depth they feel, people who aren't intimidated by your frequency because it matches the one they've been suppressing, people who aren't afraid of truth but starving for it, people who look at you and feel something unfamiliar, relief, as if they finally found someone who doesn't need to be lied to, softened for, or performed around. These are the ones who step closer, intentionally or subconsciously. They lean into your field instead of shrinking from it. They watch you not with fear, but with fascination. They wonder what you know that they don't. They wonder what you see that they miss. They wonder what it would feel like to be seen by you on purpose, not accidentally. Because that one warning shot side-eye revealed something else. You are not just someone who sees through people. You are someone who awakens people. And awakening is far more terrifying than exposure. Exposure destroys illusions. Awakening destroys identities. But here's the paradox that no one in the room understands except you. You never asked for this role. You never sought to dismantle anyone's ego. You never intended to send a soul crying into the astral realm. Your glance was not calculated. It was instinct. And instinct reveals the truth of your power far more accurately than intention. Because when you're not trying, you're the purest version of yourself. And the purest version of yourself is what terrifies people the most. But the shift that's moving toward you now, the one that your glance summoned, has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with alignment. It's the universe positioning you where your vision, your discernment, your energy, and your presence can no longer be misinterpreted or underestimated. It's placing you in a timeline where your frequency isn't treated like a threat, but a map. A map others will follow, willingly or unwillingly, because your clarity exposes the routes they've been too afraid to take. This is the consequence of awakening. You stop operating in the world people think exists. You begin operating in the world beneath it, the subtle world, the energetic world, the truth-based world where lies cannot breathe and illusions cannot survive. And once you enter that world, people sense it even before they understand it. You are no longer reacting to environments. Environments are reacting to you. This is why the room feels like it's holding its breath, why conversations are stuttering, why people are glancing at you then quickly looking away, why energy feels stretched, thinned, trembling. It's not discomfort, it's recalibration, because when you unleashed that glance, you revealed the hierarchy of the unseen. And the unseen is now adjusting to your presence. But let me tell you the real consequence of that moment, the truth that's forming behind your awareness, like a thunderhead gathering force. Someone in that room is not collapsing. Someone is not afraid. Someone is not intimidated, exposed, or destabilized. Someone is intrigued. Someone saw what you did. Someone felt the frequency behind your glance. Someone recognized the signature of a power they've only encountered in rare, life-altering moments. Someone in that room is waking up as well. Not in fear, in recognition. Their soul is stepping forward. Their attention is sharpening. Their interest is deepening. Because what you thought was a warning shot was also a signal flare, a call, a summoning, an invitation to forces, allies, connections, and consequences that operate in the same frequency you just activated. Your glance did not just collapse someone. It awakened someone else. And that awakening is about to alter the entire trajectory of what happens next. Because the moment that person steps into your frequency fully, knowingly, intentionally, the room won't just shift, the world around you will. And that shift is approaching faster than anyone realizes. What you don't see yet is the chain reaction unfolding, like a quiet explosion behind the veil of the moment. The one whose ego dissolved under your stare is still metaphorically face down in the astral dirt, trying to figure out which dimension their dignity rolled into. But while everyone's attention is locked onto their dramatic unraveling, something far more important is happening at the edge of your awareness. Someone else felt that frequency. Someone who didn't flinch, didn't collapse, didn't spiral. Someone whose soul didn't scatter under the weight of your demonic side-eye, but instead snapped to attention like a predator recognizing another predator. This is the paradox of your power. The same glance that turns weak foundations into sand becomes a doorway for those built of stone. And this person, this newly awakened witness, felt the truth inside your gaze and didn't fear it. They followed it. They leaned into it. They recognized you not as a threat, not as a mystery, but as a signal, a sign, a frequency match. And matching frequencies don't collide. They converge. Right now, they're watching you with an awareness most people don't possess. An awareness sharpened by something ancient in them. They felt the room shift. They felt the collapse. They felt the energetic ripples tearing through everyone's subconscious. But instead of stepping back like the rest, they stepped inward, toward you, toward the frequency, toward the awakening your glance triggered. They want to understand it. They want to stand near it. They want to see what happens when someone like you stops dimming your intensity and starts wielding it. But before they reach you, before their presence enters your orbit fully, the universe has to remove everything that cannot withstand the force of what comes next. That means the ones who pretend strength but operate from insecurity will begin malfunctioning. The ones who rely on manipulative charm will begin losing control of their narratives. The ones who thrive on illusions will begin trembling under truths they never asked for. The aftermath of your glance didn't end with the collapse, it only began there. Because that demonic side-eye did something irreversible. It exposed the hierarchy of authenticity in the room. The fragile fell first. The avoidant followed. The awakened rose. And now the weak are scrambling, desperately trying to rebuild the facade that disintegrated the second your gaze cut through it. They're trying to make jokes, trying to over-explain, trying to shift the attention away from themselves, trying to pretend nothing happened. But their energy betrays them. Their soul hasn't returned to their body yet. It's still wandering the astral plane, crying into the cosmic carpet, asking whatever celestial being is nearby for a do-over. But there are no do-overs with truth. Once you see someone's core, you can never unsee it. Once they feel your perception, they can never forget it. But while they're spiraling, the one who awakened is recalibrating quietly, precisely, observing you like someone who just watched lightning strike the ground and is trying to decide whether to run from the storm or walk into it and claim the thunder as their own. You don't notice them yet because you're still processing what your own power just did. Even you didn't realize that a simple glance could unravel someone's entire psychological infrastructure in under a second. You didn't realize your eyes carry that much consequence, that much exposure, that much authority. But authority doesn't ask for permission. It announces itself. That's what your glance did. It announced, it declared, it revealed. And now the universe is moving everything into alignment with that declaration. This is where the story shifts from reaction to momentum. Because once power is acknowledged, it begins to gather. The awakened person feels it. They see you not as someone who accidentally destabilized a situation, but as someone who possesses an instinctive mastery you haven't fully tapped into yet. They see potential. They see force. They see precision. And more importantly, they see themselves reflected in the frequency your glance released. You don't just intimidate people. You activate them. You expose them. You awakened them. The ones who collapse needed the collapse. The ones who avoid needed the discomfort. The one who steps forward needed the invitation. Because your glance wasn't the end of something, it was the beginning. The beginning of a dynamic shift where your role as the silent observer evolves into something far more pronounced. The awakening is not just theirs, it's yours. You felt the shift too, didn't you? That subtle knowing in your bones, that hum beneath your intuition, that quiet certainty that what happened wasn't random or accidental or emotional. It was energetic, it was encoded, it was inevitable. Most people go their entire lives without ever accessing the level of discernment you unleashed in that one moment. But you've always felt something different behind your eyes, like a pressure, a depth, a knowing. You just never had a moment dramatic enough to reveal its full potency. Until now. That side eye didn't just collapse someone, it unveiled you. And once truth unveils a person, there's no going back into hiding. Your instincts are sharper, your awareness is heightened, your perception is uncontrollable. You're not looking at people anymore, you're seeing them. And the universe is responding by placing people in your path, whose frequencies match the one you just activated. The awakened one steps closer, not physically, but energetically. The distance between you begins to collapse like gravity, pulling two celestial bodies together. They're drawn to you, not because you embarrassed someone, not because you asserted power, but because you revealed truth effortlessly. They've been waiting for someone whose energy doesn't require explanation or justification. They've been waiting for someone who sees the world the way they do, beneath the surface, behind the mask, beyond the narrative. And as their awareness locks onto yours, you finally feel it, that pull, that recognition, that electric hum of two frequencies syncing for the first time. It's not romantic, it's not emotional, it's existential. Two forces meeting across the battlefield of a moment where truth detonated without warning. They don't fear your glance, they welcome it. They want it. They want to see what you see. They want to know what you know. They want to move the way you move. They are not intimidated by the power in your eyes because they carry a similar power in theirs, dormant, restrained, disciplined, but unmistakably present. The difference is that your power revealed itself first. Their awakening is the echo. Now the room is split into two worlds, the collapsed and the called. The collapsed can't meet your eyes anymore without feeling the weight of their own deception. They walk around spiritually barefoot, hoping no one notices their soul is still out of orbit. They avoid your presence the way people avoid mirrors on days they don't want to confront themselves. They're praying silently for you to leave, praying even harder for you not to look at them again. But the called, oh, the called, is studying you with a precision that would unsettle anyone else. They're analyzing not your expression, but your frequency, not your words, but your energy. They know what happened wasn't luck. They know it wasn't coincidence. They know it wasn't mood. It was power, raw and unfiltered. And they're ready for whatever comes next, even if they don't know what next looks like yet. The universe begins placing pressure around the edges of the moment, guiding the weakened energy out and pulling the awakened energy in. The ones who can't withstand your frequency will naturally drift away. The ones who can will naturally rise into your orbit. This is spiritual filtration, energetic gravity, divine sorting. The demonic side-eye was merely the catalyst. The aftermath is the alignment. And alignment always brings a shift. You can feel it building now, a tidal pull toward a new reality, a new dynamic, a new level of perception. It feels like the world is rearranging itself around the truth your glance revealed. It feels like the universe is stepping forward to say, now that you know what your eyes can do, what are you going to do with that power? Because your glance didn't just collapse someone's ego. It altered your trajectory. It signaled your arrival. It summoned those who can stand in your presence without falling apart. The awakened one moves one step closer, spiritually if not physically, and suddenly the air between you feels charged, as if the next moment could ignite something irreversible, something powerful, something that rewrites the rules of how you move through the world and how the world responds to you. You're no longer the person who merely observes. You're the one who triggers transformation simply by looking. And they're no longer the person who stays silent in the background. They're the one whose awakening is meant to meet yours. This is the shift everyone in the room feels but can't name. The rise of a force that no longer hides its sight. The emergence of someone whose glance carries consequence. The alignment of two energies designed to amplify each other. The demonic side-eye didn't send just one soul into the astral realm crying. It summoned another soul into purpose. And when those two frequencies collide, the collapsed and the awakened, the world won't just shift, it will kneel. Because you are no longer the one giving accidental glances. You are the one giving revelations. You are the one rearranging realities. You are the one whose eyes speak the truth the universe has been waiting to unleash. And this awakening, yours and theirs, was never a mistake. It was the prophecy hidden in your gaze.